So I did not grow up in Hollywood exactly. I spent more of my time in New York growing up. And that's where I was like pursuing acting as a kid. So there were a lot of scenes in Honey that, I mean, I could vividly put myself in, remembering the audition rooms, remembering, what that was like. I did a lot of homeschooling. So in the book, she's being picked up from school, but I did a lot of homeschooling and missed out on a lot of, formative childhood experiences from going to that. And I would say the biggest thing about my experience is it's pretty cutthroat. You were really exposed to just like the competitiveness of the industry and really treated like adults in terms of they weren't really like interested in sparing your feelings. So that was kind of my experience growing up, and that's what I would say I related to the most with the story. It's hard for me to really say. I would hope that it is, with culture changing and we're being a little bit more sensitive to people's feelings, it seems like societally, that I would hope that kids are a bit more protected. Like I said, it just was really, I would be in big auditions where they would just cut you right to your face. You'd be in the room and it'd be like, you're out, you're in, you're out. And it was just such a high and low emotional experience because you'd see, those of us, if you went forward, you were so excited, but then you're right next to people that are just heartbroken. And I would hope that maybe some of that has changed and that they maybe do it with a little more grace and tact now to maybe spare kids' feelings. I would say also the biggest thing that I experienced, because I did it as a kid and then I like took time off and then like came back to the city to like pursue music, is what's expected. Like I actually had meetings. I mean, I have a vivid memory of like being in a meeting at Sony Records where they looked at me and were like, oh, if you had been here 5 years ago, you would have walked out with a record deal, which was you're like, thank you, I guess, because you're telling me that you think I'm good, but also that you're not gonna give me what I'm hoping for. But I just think the industry changed in a way that with the advent of like American Idol and social media, and now the expectation became you needed to kind of like be famous first. I would say in the 90s and into the 2000s, there was a more of a developing an artist. If you look at like Brittany Spears and all those people, like they were kind of a little bit rough and they got these record deals and then they were like performing in shopping malls and kind of building their fan base. Whereas now I think the expectation for people is that you're kind of already famous. You either need to blow up on TikTok or, have some song in some movie or you need to go viral and like, or be on a reality show. And then once you've already done the legwork of getting famous, then you get the opportunities. And that's a little different and frustrating. My biggest takeaway, I just found that Isabel seemed really tapped in. It's just she paints such a really vivid, clear picture of that world. It feels really rich and really specific, and if you didn't know better, you would think that she was there. So, I don't know what her research process was in gathering the information for this book, but I would say it just was a really great portrait of that time. I felt like she captured it really, really beautifully. And then I guess the takeaway is there's a bit of a sad takeaway of like things kind of don't change. The machine keeps turning. New people will always be stepping up to the plate and wanting to pursue this dream, and people get taken advantage of, and the system kind of keeps going. So I don't know if that will change, but it's that show business. Honestly, I think that it can really span. I think it's for people who grew up in that time, who are in that time, like it's gonna be feelings of nostalgia. Like you're just gonna read it and it's gonna take you right back there, and you're gonna remember where you were when you heard that song or when you were watching TRL after school. And then I think for people who didn't experience that time, like I said, she's so vivid and so detailed in describing that time that even if you weren't around to experience it, like you get a chance to experience it, especially with like, I feel like 90s and 2000s culture having this reemergence that I think it's just like a perfect time for this book to be coming out.